The next days felt like walking on thin, brittle ice, every step hollow, every breath laced with dread. Evan acted perfectly normal, waking early, drinking his black coffee, giving me a quick forehead kiss before work. Julia kept texting me cafe photos, work complaints, and sweet check-ins that once would have warmed me. Now they made my skin crawl. They were performing, both of them, and performing well. But masks always crack. I cross-checked Evan's travel schedule against company emails and HR announcements. That's when I found the first real fracture. His 3-day trip to Chicago was actually a 4-hour internal meeting at the Burlington office. He hadn't left the state. That wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a deliberate lie. Later that night, while Evan dozed on the couch, I unlocked his phone using Face ID. No texts from Jay, no call logs. Nothing suspicious. It was spotless to spotless. But I noticed an app he'd never used before, Telegram, locked with its own passcode. Evan wasn't the type to suddenly adopt encrypted messaging without a reason. I couldn't open it, but his presence alone was enough. The evidence I didn't expect came from Julia. One afternoon, I visited her dental clinic to drop off Mason's insurance card. Julia was out. The receptionist, someone I chatted with a few times, smiled and casually asked, "Oh, you're not with Evan today? He usually picks her up." I stared at her. "My husband." "Yeah," she said brightly. "That gray SUV." They chat for a while before leaving. They seem close. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. That evening, I followed Evan. I told him I had to work late. I left my car at the bookstore and called an Uber to his office. At 7, he walked out, not to the company garage, but to the public lot behind the building. He climbed into his SUV and drove straight to Julia's clinic. I followed to cars behind. Julia stepped outside wearing a fitted knit dress, not her scrubs. She wrapped a scarf around her neck like she was meeting someone special. They shared a look I'd expect in a romance movie. Not real life, and certainly not between my friend and my husband. Evan opened the door for her. They drove toward the wooded trail by the lake, a place lonely enough at night to hide anything. I followed on foot. As I got closer, their voices floated through the trees. Evan sighed. "She's starting to get suspicious." Julia's voice trembled. "I've waited for you so long, Evan. Over a decade. You always said when Mason was older, She stopped, choking on her words. Evan was silent. I felt the ground sway beneath me. Then Evan said something that froze my blood. "Julia, we had something years ago. But I can't leave Claire because of the past." "The past?" Julia's voice broke. "Don't pretend. I wasn't some fling. I was a woman you loved before you married her. I've never forgotten what we had." I pressed my back against a tree to stay upright. They had history. Deep history. Evan had never told me. And Julia, had she become my friend just to stay close to him? Evan replied in desperation. "I wrote to you. Dozens of letters. You never answered." Julia cried out. "I never received any of them." Their voices fell into stunned silence, as if they'd both uncovered a buried truth neither knew existed. But then Evan said something that hollowed me out completely. "Either way, we can't go back. And I won't let Mason lose his family because of my mistakes 10 years ago. 10 years ago. We've been married 14. 10 years ago. Mason was 4. They hadn't just loved each other before me. They had cheated on me during my marriage. Long before I ever saw the message from Jay." I stumbled back toward the car, barely breathing. There was no anger left, just a chilling certainty. The betrayal stretched far deeper than I imagined, and I was nowhere near the full truth. But I would be. I didn't sleep that night. The house was so quiet I could hear each tick of the wall clock, counting down to the moment everything in my life would be laid bare: my marriage, my friendship, my trust. Evan slept in the guest room, claiming back pain. Julia texted me about lunch plans for the weekend. Their casualness made my skin prickle. They truly believed I was oblivious. By sunrise, something inside me solidified. I wouldn't be the blindly loyal wife for one more day. I printed every piece of evidence I collected: emails, fake work trips, GPS screenshots, and the audio recording from the woods. I spread everything across the kitchen table like evidence in a courtroom. Then I called Julia. "Can you come by? It's important." She sounded surprised but cheerful. "Of course. I'll be there in 10. I knocked on the guest room door. "We need to talk," I said evenly. Evan's eyes flickered with unease. Something in my tone must have told him this wasn't ordinary. Julia arrived before Evan had time to escape. She stepped in with the warm smile I trusted for a decade, one that now felt grotesque. "What's going on?" I pointed to the table. "Sit, both of you." They exchanged a glance, and I saw panic spark in their expressions. Julia folded her hands. Evan hovered, restless. I picked up the stack of papers and began. "I know you lied. I know about the fake trips, the nights of the clinic, the meeting at the woods. And I know about the two of you. 10 years ago." Julia's face drained a color. Evan shot up from his chair. "Claire, let me explain." "No," I said sharply. I listened. I placed my phone on the table and played the recording. Evan's voice, Julia's voice, their confession, their history, their betrayal. The kitchen filled with the sounds that shattered my family. Julia covered her mouth, eyes wide. Evan collapsed into the chair, head in his hands. Claire, he whispered, I'm so sorry. I made terrible mistakes. But please, this family, you destroyed this family, I said coldly. While I was working 2 jobs to pay off hospital bills when Mason was a baby. You were sleeping with her. Julia sobbed. Claire, I didn't know about the letters. I really thought he abandoned me. I never meant to hurt you. I don't care about your unfinished love story, I said. I care that you continued it. In my marriage, silence thickened between us. Evan looked broken. Julia trembled. I took out the final envelope divorce papers. I want full custody. You can visit on weekends. Sign. Evan panicked. Claire, I love you. Please don't. You lost this marriage the night you walked into that woods, I said. I'm just acknowledging it, Julia whispered. I'm so sorry. No, I replied. You're sorry you got caught. Evan signed. Whether out of guilt or resignation, I didn't care. I stood, feeling lighter than I had in years. Leave my house, I said. Both of you, they did. 2 months later, Mason and I moved into a modest townhouse downtown. It wasn't big or fancy, but it was ours. For the first time in years, I decorated without compromise, hung pictures I liked, bought plants I'd never had space for. I rebuilt my life slowly, deliberately. One autumn afternoon, while shelving books at the store, I heard someone tap the counter. It was Noah, the cafe owner next door. The same man who handed me a free cappuccino the day I sat crying in my car. After leaving the courthouse. You doing okay? He asked. I am, truly, then. Coffee tonight? I hesitated, then nodded. This wasn't a new beginning, just a door slightly open. And sometimes, that's enough. Later that evening, Mason texted me, Mom, I'm proud of you. And in that moment, I knew without doubt I had chosen the right path. I always thought betrayal came with obvious signs: lipstick on a collar, suspicious late-night calls. But mine didn't begin with anything grand. It began with a soft laugh drifting down the wooden staircase of the suburban home I lived in for over a decade. And when I heard my husband whisper, relax, she won't find out, I recognized the woman responding to him. It wasn't a stranger's voice. It was the voice of the person closest to me. My name is Claire Henderson, 38, and I live in Burlington, Vermont, in a quiet neighborhood lined with white porches, sugar maple trees, and dogs wandering into the wrong yards. I manage a small independent bookstore in town, a gentle job that lets me be home by 5, cook dinner, and keep an eye on my 14-year-old son Mason's homework. My husband Evan, 40, is a maintenance engineer for a clean energy company, constantly traveling to different facilities across nearby states. From the outside, our marriage looked like a picture-perfect American stable life: weekend baseball games, big family Christmases, summer picnics by Lake Champlain, and the occasional argument about who forgot to take out the trash. Nothing dramatic, nothing alarming. At least, that's what I believed. Things changed when Evan's work trips became more frequent. His schedule grew heavier, his departures more abrupt, and with each trip a strange tension settled into the corners of our familiar home. He'd come back smelling faintly of a perfume I didn't wear. His phone was always face down. His smile felt different, like there was something pressed tightly behind it. I tried to ignore it. We'd been together 15 years. Evan was always responsible, grounded. The last person I'd suspect of taking risks outside our marriage. I convinced myself it was stress. I convinced myself I was overthinking. Then came that Thursday night. I was clearing the dinner table when Evan's phone, unlocked for once, lit up. I didn't intend to look, but the message flashed like a slap across my face. Can't stop thinking about earlier. Same time tomorrow. J, just a single initial. No photo, no saved name. My heart tripped and slammed painfully. I spent the next morning telling my best friend, Julia Sanders, dentist, mother of 2, and the person who'd helped me through my mom's passing. We drank lattes at our favorite cafe. When I told her about the message, she didn't look directly at me. She forced a reassuring laugh, her voice just a touch higher. Claire, it's probably someone texting the wrong number. Evan isn't that kind of man. But the way her eyes avoided mine made my stomach twist. That night, when I tried to ask Evan of any stress at work or someone bothering him, he just hugged me briefly and kissed my forehead. You're overthinking, he said lightly, but his eyes were far too heavy. From that moment on, my attention sharpened. His today trips turned into 3. He dodged calls. He stared at himself in the morning mirror as though wrestling with something he couldn't admit. I didn't want to doubt him, but a wife's intuition doesn't lie, and mine whispered something terrifying. The woman texting him might not be a stranger. It might be Julia. I had no proof. But that night, the night I heard the laugh on the staircase, would give me the proof faster than I ever expected? It started on a Saturday night that should have been unremarkable. Evan said he needed to run back to the office to grab documents for an early morning site inspection in New Hampshire. His voice was steady, not evasive, but something in it felt rehearsed, like he was reading lines from a script someone had handed him. Mason had fallen asleep early after basketball practice, and the entire house felt strangely hollow. I went upstairs to fetch my planner from the study, a small room where Evan kept his laptop and stacks of files. I had no suspicion in mind, but as I reached the top step, I heard the front door unlock. My heartbeat slowed to a crawl before exploding into panic. Evan couldn't be back, he'd only left 30 minutes earlier. Instinctively, I pressed myself against the wall, covering my mouth. The door opened. Evan's low voice drifted in. "Relax, Jules. I told you she has no idea." Julia. The woman who held my hand through grief, who celebrated Mason's birth with me, who I trusted more than myself. She stepped inside with him like she belonged there. She gave a soft, nervous laugh, one I had never heard directed at her husband. "I just worry she's noticing things," she said. "Claire has strong intuition," Evan murmured back, soothingly. "I've got it handled." "Same as always." I froze, my skin turning to ice. The world narrowed to their voices, too comfortable, too familiar, to intimate. I climbed the remaining steps without remembering how, my heart pounding so loudly I feared they'd hear it. They walked into the living room, turning on the dim lights, their whispers mixing with quiet, breathy laughter. All week I had to sit and listen to her talk about family stuff, Julia sighed. "While we just wait a little longer," Evan whispered. "Once everything is settled, I'll..." He didn't finish. Maybe he couldn't. Something inside me cracked. Not with rage, but with a chilling clarity and instinct to survive. Instead of confronting them, I slipped silently into the study and shut the door behind me with a soundless click. A moment later, their footsteps creaked up the stairs. Evan chuckled softly. "Come on. Mason's asleep. My bedroom, our bed." I had to bite my lip hard enough to taste blood to stay silent. When the house finally went still, I fled. I drove aimlessly until I ended up in the parking lot, overlooking Lake Champlain, the place we used to picnic when Mason was small. The cold wind off the water slapped my face, stripping away the last remnants of denial. Why Julia? Why the one person I trusted like family? But as my mind replayed her odd comments, the evasive looks, the too quick reassurances, the pieces began fitting together in the cruelest way. Near midnight, I returned home. The house was dark. I didn't confront them. I walked into Mason's room instead, tracing his hair as he slept peacefully, unaware his family was balancing on a fracture line. And I realized I had two choices: pretend I knew nothing, or gather proof so complete they couldn't lie their way out. Looking at Mason, the answer became obvious. I wouldn't let them turn me into a fool. I would find the truth, every last piece of it.